Kore.My.NA and welcome to Africa Good Morning, your reliable show into Africa's most important stories. I am your host, Glenora Shipura. Let's take a look at what you can expect in today's broadcast. Museveni begins 7th presidential term after disputed Uganda election. Rights group raises alarm over repression in DR Congo. Cyril Ramaphosa rejects calls to resign. African leaders push credit reform at Nairobi summit. We will be right back with these stories and more on Africa Good Morning. In our top stories, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni, age 81, has been sworn in for a 7th consecutive term after winning disputed elections held in January, extending his rule as one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. Heavy security, including armored tanks, was deployed across Kampala before the inauguration ceremony, with police saying the measures were intended to maintain public order. Addressing supporters gathered at Kololo Independence Grounds, Museveni said the new term should represent no more sleep for all Ugandans, while encouraging citizens to focus on creating wealth, jobs, peace, and infrastructure development achieved during the last 40 years. Museveni secured more than 70% of the vote, with the term expected to end in 2031. Opposition leader Bobi Wine rejected the election outcome, alleging ballot stuffing, although election officials denied the accusations. Wine later fled Uganda, saying he feared the regime wanted to eliminate him. Museveni first came to power as a rebel leader in 1986 and has since won 7 elections in Uganda. Analysts believe this could become Museveni's final presidential term. In our next story, Human Rights Watch says authorities in the Democratic Republic of the Congo are increasingly harassing and arbitrarily detaining journalists, activists, and opposition members amid political tensions surrounding constitutional amendments and conflict involving the Rwandan-backed M23 armed group. The organization said the clampdown on critical voices has intensified as President Felix Tshisekedi continues discussing constitutional revision that could potentially extend the presidency beyond the current 2-term limit. Between January and May 2026, Human Rights Watch interviewed civil society representatives, opposition activists, and journalists who described increasing restrictions affecting freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. On March 24th, police in Kinshasa reportedly fired tear gas and used violence against protesters demonstrating against proposed constitutional changes. Representatives from the Commitment for Citizenship and Development Party said police arrested 15 opposition members and protesters before later releasing them. Journalists critical of government policy reportedly went into hiding after intelligence agents searched for them following statements questioning constitutional amendments. Human Rights Watch urged Congolese authorities to stop harassing journalists, activists, and opposition members while protecting rights to free speech, peaceful assembly, and fair trials. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is facing renewed impeachment proceedings linked to the Farmgate scandal involving foreign currency stolen from furniture at his ranch. Ramaphosa, who has served as head of state since 2018, has denied wrongdoing and resisted calls to resign. Under South Africa's constitutional process, any lawmaker may initiate a motion to remove the president on grounds including serious misconduct, violation of the constitution, or inability to perform presidential duties. The National Assembly Speaker must then refer the motion to an independent panel of legal experts to determine whether sufficient evidence exists to proceed. Should Parliament approve impeachment proceedings, the matter moves to a specially constituted impeachment committee before lawmakers eventually vote. With a 2/3 majority required for removal, Ramaphosa's African National Congress currently holds 159 of the 400 National Assembly seats and governs alongside coalition partners, including the Democratic Alliance. The controversy dates back to November 2022, when an independent panel found preliminary evidence suggesting Ramaphosa may have violated his oath of office regarding money reportedly stolen from his farm. Here is Ramaphosa in his own words.
Since a criminal complaint was laid against me in June 2022, I have consistently maintained that I have not stolen public money, committed any crime, nor violated my oath of office. From the beginning, I said that I would cooperate with all institutions that are mandated to deal with these types of matters. I have indeed cooperated with all investigations and inquiries into this matter. I will continue to cooperate with all institutions that are mandated to deal with all these matters. When the independent panel submitted its report in December 2022, I said that I disagreed with its findings and the process of reasoning that led to those findings. In my submission to the panel, I said, the complaints against me are based on hearsay allegations. No evidence, let alone sufficient evidence, has been presented to prove that I committed any violation, let alone a serious violation of the Constitution or the law, or serious misconduct as set out in the Constitution. As a consequence, I decided then to approach our courts to take the report of the independent panel on review. I was advised by my legal team that the panel report was capable of being reviewed by a court of law on several grounds, including the misconception of its mandate, grave errors of law, and unfounded conclusions of fact.
Moving on, African leaders meeting at the Africa Forward Summit in Nairobi alongside French President Emmanuel Macron pushed for reforms aimed at improving access to affordable credit and investment financing across Africa. Leaders used the second day of the summit to highlight concerns that African countries continue facing high borrowing costs due to perceptions of risk among lenders. Kenyan President William Ruto said the major challenge affecting African economies was not liquidity, but risk architecture. Macron announced support for a proposed first loss guarantee mechanism intended to de-risk investments in Africa and said he would lobby for the proposal at the upcoming G7 summit in France. At Macron's invitation, Ruto is expected to attend the G7 gathering in Avian-les-Bains as African leaders seek momentum for reforms. More than 30 African leaders, financial institution heads, and business executives attended the Nairobi summit, while Macron said the event had already mobilized 23 billion euros in investments for Africa. Have a look at footage from the event.
Shared responsibility and, of course, shared progress. This summit, therefore, presents us with an opportunity to define a new era of engagement between Africa and its partners, an era based not on dependency, but on dignity, not on extraction, but on value creation, and not on short-term transactions, but on long-term shared prosperity. Because the Africa we envision is an Africa of confidence, an Africa of ideas, an Africa of innovation, an Africa of enterprise, an Africa that believes in itself, invests in its people, mobilizes its own resources, and engages the world as an equal partner in shaping balanced, prosperous, and peaceful global future. Africa is rising, determined to shape its own destiny, and increasingly prepared to shape the future of the world itself. That is the Africa Forward agenda. An agenda grounded not on dependency, but in sovereignty, not in vulnerability, but in resilience, and not in limitation, but in possibility. That is the Africa whose time has come. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is deeply honored to co-host this summit here in Nairobi. We look forward to productive deliberations, practical outcomes, and enduring partnerships capable of advancing prosperity, stability, dignity, and shared progress for our people and for future generations. I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Nairobi. Jambo na karibu Nairobi. Bonjour et bienvenue à Nairobi.
But this partnership, this balanced, generous, lucid, and equal partnership is precisely how we will frame and build our common future. So thank you.
Today, sports is industry. Sports is infrastructure. Sports is investment. Sports is culture, diplomacy, technology, tourism, and, of course, jobs.
Good evening, Nairobi. Bonsoir, Nairobi.
We are ready to engage in a manner that is beneficial to France and is beneficial to us. We no longer want a relationship that is one-sided. And this is why this France-Africa Summit in Nairobi is different. We want those of us who are Anglophone to feel as part of this relationship as those who are Francophone, because we are one continent and we are one people.
That concludes our top stories. We now take a look at the weather predictions before we return with the Namibia report. First up in the Namibia report, Mobile Telecommunications Limited and the National Housing Enterprise yesterday signed a 5-year Memorandum of Understanding in Windhoek aimed at integrating fiber and telecommunications infrastructure into current and future housing developments across Namibia. The partnership seeks to improve digital connectivity, reduce infrastructure costs, and support the rollout of smart connected homes for Namibians. A joint technical steering committee will be established to oversee planning processes, facilitate technical coordination, and support the commissioning of services within identified housing development areas. National Housing Enterprise Chief Executive Officer Gisbertus Mukulu said strategic collaboration between state-owned enterprises strengthens service delivery, maximizes shared resources, and assists in empowering communities across Namibia. Moving on to our next story, persons with disabilities in the Oshana region are calling for public buildings and shopping malls to become more accessible and accommodating to improve movement within public spaces. The concerns were raised during an ongoing awareness meeting organized by the National Federation of Persons with Disabilities together with Ongwediva Town Council. Ongwediva Mayor Naemi Amuthenu acknowledged complaints regarding building facilities that remain largely unfriendly towards persons with disabilities despite the council's responsibility for approving building plans. Amuthenu said the concerns opened the council's eyes and confirmed that persons with disabilities would now be involved in strategic planning processes. Participants also called for funding opportunities for businesses operated by persons with disabilities across Oshana town councils.
Very far from having disabled-friendly facilities. It is true when she indicated to say, we are the one who granted an approval to all the buildings in the town. Unfortunately enough, it's true, we do not put the prerequisite that all the buildings before an approval granted to be disabled friendly. That is an eye-opener to us, and we are taking it into consideration. It's true, we should have strategic collaboration with people living in some disability. And we promise that from here, with all the strategic planning we are going to consider, we should involve people living with disabilities needs. This, when she was talking, it opened the wound.
Is disabled or challenged, we then require supporting documentation, and then based on that, we'll then give priority. Also depending if a person is then able also. For example, business is something completely different. It also requires, there's also other requirements in terms of if you are able, based on your proposal, if you are truly able to support in terms of financial resources so that
The Agricultural Bank of Namibia donated irrigation equipment and farming materials worth more than 49,000 Namibian dollars to 2 horticulture projects in Kavango East and Kavango West as part of efforts aimed at strengthening food security and supporting local farmers. Agribank Kavango Acting Regional Branch Manager Dusken Mungalisa said during the handover ceremony that the assistance forms part of the bank's commitment towards promoting sustainable agriculture, youth empowerment, and rural economic development. Beneficiaries include 26-year-old Kavango East farmer Sebastian Mukoya, who received a water tank and irrigation systems for his tomato and cabbage project.
We gathered to witness Agribank support towards empowering our local farmers and strengthening food security in Kavango East and Kavango West. We are honored by the presence. Thank you for joining us in this special occasion. Today's objective or today's events, today Agribank proudly hands over agriculture support materials to 2 deserving horticulture projects in Kavango East and the Kavango West.
Dono materia ndi ninge yo organiza mo skuino sawo agwana yak moneka siawe senyo igwana nkenyo gwe kuhafa ambilo wena akurugana senyo igwana ngesi vai kupeno mo irugana toto si totundumo ipoka twikire paru molivyo.
The handover ceremony for a commemorative coffee table book honoring Namibia's founding father Sam Nujoma took place in Windhoek yesterday through a joint initiative between New Era Publication Corporation and the Sam Nujoma Foundation. The publication celebrates the life, leadership, and enduring legacy of the father of the Namibian nation. Board chairperson of the New Era Publication Corporation, John Sifani, delivered introductory remarks during the ceremony, while Sam Nujoma Foundation chairperson Nahaz Angola said the donation of the book to school was intended to honor Nuyoma's contribution to Namibia's independence and education. Namibian Minister of Education, Innovation, Youth, Sports, Arts and Culture, Sanet Stienkam, welcomed the donation of 400 books for schools and public libraries. Let's have a look.
The flame of the May movement, which is the birthday of the founding father, which is the 12th of May. And also in attendance was the former Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Johnny Mutorwa. We are saying that this book we are launching today was actually developed under a theme saying, celebrating a life of revolutionary of an African icon. This is truly befitting the caliber of Dr. Sam Nujoma, whose contribution to the liberation struggle is comparable to none. Director of ceremony, we were also assured by the Nujoma family during the launch of the book that they would like that his life be documented, and also spread throughout the country, especially those who needed the schools and libraries. So this year, as a start of this exercise, NEPC engaged our all-weather friends, the People's Republic of China, to embark on a project to ensure that the legacy of our founding father continue by making the book part of the Namibian history. As soon as we knocked on their doors, our friends from the embassy endorsed the project.
And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Thank you for tuning in to Africa Good Morning and catching up on the latest news in Africa and beyond. From me, Glenora Shipura, until next time.